We mixed. We loaded it. We edited it.
Sometimes we get so deep into conversation that we have separate segments worthy of their own place in the sun.
Here is a reshuffled mini episode.
And I do kind of miss those days too, where half the time it would premiere on HBO and then you see it at Blockbuster 2 months later.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that gets me now is like a lot of the stuff is lost to time because of the day and age we're in.
Yeah, unless you videotaped it, you didn't know.
Yeah,
find it.
You can get this stuff on DVD, or if you go on a certain website, which I will not mention out loud, you can watch the movies. The Emmanuel movies.
Yep, they're out there.
They're out there. You just have to look,
and
where they are and stuff like that. I just think about them as like, these little capsules of time, where we didn't have to worry about, and you got to think it's pre-AIDS.
It was, yeah.
Pre, there was no, there was this enjoyment. And I think the one thing that got me was like, if you watch it, it's like, there's this enjoyment of the sex in the Sylvia Kristel movies, where, she likes to be not taking advantage, but, she's exploring who she is as a woman, It
was also just fun. Just like no one got hurt. And then I think by the end of the 90s, it got really gross with just people coming up with Basic Instinct knockoffs. And you're like, oh, shut up.
Yeah. It's like, it was like,
it used to be just funny, just kind of fun. Now you're adding all this shit that really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that speaks to speaks to what's going on in Hollywood these days. You get something that hits really well, and then you say, you know what, let's do 50 more. And sometimes you're going to hit, more times you're going to miss. And then after a while, people just kind of get so far away from the original source material that you lose the charm of it.
Yeah, it was cute the first 20 times. No.
Yeah, and I've seen it with movies. I've seen it with television shows, or when they try to say, "Well, we like the idea, but we want to make it more modern," and by making it more modern, they're adding in more drama and less of what came with the original. And in doing so, like I said, you dilute the product to the point where anybody who's even associated with it, even if it was something that when it was good, it's going to taint the rest of their career. Like, oh, you were in this movie, and there was also kind of related to this movie that really, really sucked in the same kind of genre, so therefore you have to be pigeonholed, or this is the only thing that we know you can do. So instead of getting
Sedaris is kind of weird in that he's kind of an 80s Michael Bay. He is coming out.
I wouldn't say he's Michael Bay. He's like a cross between Michael Bay and
I realize he's low budget. I'm just
he's low budget, but I mean, there's a part in Hard Ticket to Hawaii where the guy tapes like the fucking he has like razor blades to the frisbee.
Yes, and then it's like it explodes
that's just
the next
a great
time.
Fucking idea,
And it makes you wonder what was going on inside his head.
I got a great idea. Let's tape razor blades to the frisbee, and he just cuts the guy's hand off. Oh, that's a great fucking idea,
No one told me no.
Hey,
the one thing gets me, he got Darby Hinton to be in Tennessee Buck.
Yes.
The guy who was the guy who was in Here Comes the Brides, he gets to be, in that movie, and I'm like, I'm like Jesus Christ, please stop now. Please stop while you're ahead.
And poor old David Keith. He is like the
Oh
best
God.
movie actor ever. Like he will be in stuff where you're like, you deserve so much better, and you just always can tell when he's just latching
Yeah.
on to Kathy Showers. Like
He's in David Keith. No, I'm thinking Keith David. David Keith. I remember being in a show called what's the one? There was this one TV show. It only debuted one time, and then they pulled it where he was like in a college.
what?
Yeah, it was like
David
it
Keith.
broadcasted after the Super Bowl. I'm trying to think what it was.
That's probably why it didn't do well.
Oh shit! What was it? It was
People got to stop doing that.
Oh, it was so bad. I mean, it's like Animal House, Brothers and Sisters, and then this show.
Was it Hardball?
Delta House?
No, not Delta House. No, it was Brothers and Sisters. Was on NBC. Delta House was on ABC, and this was on CBS. And he's like, it's like it was like the world's worst premise. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, you played the beginning now, 86 that, you just one episode. Yeah, we pulled it after one episode. What was
That's
it called?
how infamous it was.
But you think about it too. It's like all these softcore movies were like little time capsules of what was going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardcore shit was different.
Yeah, those were only meant to be at drive-ins, and then they would often, when they wanted their money on the side, they would re-edit them under a different name, give it an R rating.
Yeah.
Before Blockbuster was doing that.
I remember Ursula Andress doing a movie called The Sensuous Nurse.
Oh,
right. Yeah, and it was playing at a drive-in. I think some guy was talking about this. He's like, my dad and me lived next to a drive-in, and we were watching Ursula Andress. My dad was like, his room was like right by the drive-in.
Those Bond girls, man.
Yeah, and she's like, they're playing like The Sensuous Nurse, and like all of a sudden he looks out and sees Ursula Andress standing there like practically naked, and he's like, and his father goes, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Nothing. Put that shade down," But like I've always cracked up about the movies that came out, like Four Tigers in the Afternoon, and that was a movie that,
oh yeah,
it was like just like, oh Jesus Christ,
what is going on?
Yeah.
Tonight, raw, seductive, explosive. The HBO world premiere movie. And now, the HBO world premiere movie.
What is going on with this movie? It's
And
about
then
a guy.
Jess Franco does stuff like that, and those can be very boring sometimes. Where you're like, "What is happening?" All this
it could have been
footage.
Hey, at least it wasn't Sallow.
Oh, that is true. I don't think I've gone for Solo, and I don't intend to. Oh man, why do you think people are now comfortable talking about this stuff? Because it seemed like there's still a bit of taboo. Like you had that in like pre-ratings on cassettes and CDs too, the explicit rating, where it's just people just needed a warning as to what kind of musician they were listening to. And you kind of get that with some of those movies. Even though you had all the warning in the world on the TV guides and everything, there was always someone surprised, like, oh.
I kind of scratch my head.
I see adults do this too. I have one dumb cousin who takes my aunt to a few movies. I don't know why she does it when she doesn't have good hearing, but lo and behold, half the time they walk out of today's movies, there's like, well, you had every warning in the world. There was an R rating on the trailer, yada yada. You knew what you're getting into. Why did you take her to that?
Well, the one that I always crack up about is my mom telling me that they took my grandmother and my Aunt B to see Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, what a heavy movie.
My Aunt B was very progressive. She's like, I want to see Midnight Cowboy. And my mom goes, you know what it's about, don't you? My grandmother, who was very prude, I don't think she was prude. I think she's like, I don't know if I want to see this, So they go see it.
People selling their bodies, but it's a good movie.
They go see it. And my grandmother and I think my grandmother and my Aunt B and my mom and her cousin were there. And they were like two little schoolgirls giggling, like, ooh, like that,
Wow.
And my mother's going, Mom, stop it,
My God. They must have been booed by some other hecklers in the audience.
You're going to have a strong back, Joe Buck. Pray with me, Joe Buck. Pray with me. For anybody who gets that, that's John MacGyver doing the guy who's in the hotel.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah. For anybody who's a Gilbert Gottfried fan, I just did my John MacGyver impression.
Yes, you did.
Everything must be ship shape and ready to go. Got a strong back, Joe Buck. I do that sometimes when I'm at work. I'll be like, you're gonna pray with me, Joe Buck. Pray with me.
Now you got me thinking. Now you got me thinking of Brian Blessing.
Yeah, it does kind of have a golden. Oh man.
Oh Jesus! I was trying to think about all and those movies came out. Midnight Cowboy, and I'm trying to think what else came out at that time. And then
and that was a good that's a good segue, because like those were movies where you had to remind people, hey, they got that rating because of the content. It was too much for the ratings board. It wasn't because it was pornographic. It was, I mean, RoboCop, come on. And Scarface, I'm sure you've heard the story. Brian De Palma submitted the first cut again after he bitched at the ratings board saying, see, you guys can't even tell the difference. You're just so cynical.
I just took two little parts out and that was it.
And literally all he did, he like maybe cut a frame away and like made the score less intense. It made no difference in what they rated it. They were just, again, it was like you say, that was post-AIDS, and then they're getting into, oh my God, there's drug use. I'm like, well, this is an adult movie. It's drug dealers. I mean, whatever. Would you rather they just hug the entire movie?
Would you rather they be quiet?
Yeah.
Would you rather they both have one foot on the floor?
Were you just offended by the Cuban accents? What's going on here?
That's the thing. That's the thing when like they were shooting these movies, like these softcore movies. My father always make the joke, give me the good old days where both people had one foot on the floor. I always thought about that, I always used to think about that,
It's a good question.
No, they used to do that. In order to be in bed in a 1940s movie during the Hays Code, both people had to have one foot on the floor. So
okay.
So they did this thing on Saturday Night Live when Hugh Hefner was hosting. It's
the Hays Code, yes.
It's Bill Murray and Lorraine Newman playing Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, and the camera goes on their foot, and they're like, oh, yes. Oh, and you just see the feet like moving like up and down. Oh God, I was laughing hysterically when they did that. Oh, and my father was like, no, they actually did that. If you watch any movie like The Thin Man or something like that, one foot on the floor.
Yeah, can't. It's like only on certain times could you like allow the woman to be in his arms or something.
Oh, tell me you love me. Tell me. I'll tell you when I love you when I feel like it. And but I think the thing that gets me the most now is like, Midnight Cowboy, all these, they were, it broke the barrier for the X-rated movie, to come up. But Schlesinger, if you think about it, what's the only thing that's, there's nothing very vaguely sexual about that movie. I just watched it a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing, I think the only thing I do remember is him getting gang raped by the fucking rednecks in his town or something like that. But that's all I remember. But and the scene where he gets blown by Bob Balaban in the movie theater. And the thing that cracks me up is Bob Balaban's grandfather was the guy who owned Lowe's Cinemas, I think.
I think so.
And he's like, what are you doing in this scene? He's like, well, Grandpa, I'm not really doing what I'm doing. He says, I don't want to see it ever again. This movie is not being played in the cinema. And, that's the thing, there was movies that were breaking the barrier, so to speak. And Emmanuel kind of went, all right, if we're going to break it wide open. Let's show a woman enjoying herself, with a man, with a woman, with her, with two guys with an entire soccer team with a nun, with a penguin. I don't know, and I think the thing that gets me the most is like the sensationalism of it was so big, but it was so small. It's like you look at another like Emmanuel playing for 20 weeks at this cinema, and then you look at it now and you're like, why was it there for 20 weeks? Oh,
yeah, good question. But it also is funny how, I mean, I think the remasters have taken longer, not just because people still like to be prudes and act like this is all taboo, but it's also just interesting seeing how like there's so many different, just like how there's hard and soft versions of these movies, there's also just like some that are in just bad quality, and sometimes, like you said, like there's versions that the one with the best quality has the worst dubbing / plot expo dump. So it's just like, I'm sure it's like a nightmare just getting all these people to have to stitch all these film reels together, especially
And I
under
always say
different
this.
names. Go ahead.
I always want to say this. It's like the guy editing this movie was probably going, okay, cut that scene, put that there, put that.
What
We
the
don't
hell am I
want to
doing
see
with my
that,
life?
And the trick is with softcore movies is you can't show penetration.
Yeah.
You can't show that. So what they do is they do this trick where it's the woman will be on the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll
Do
get
a
him when
fade
he's
out.
flaccid.
Yeah.
They'll get him when he's flaccid, or he'll have something over him that we can't see, like a piece of material.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember one time I was watching a movie, a softcore movie, and I just saw the material and I went, there goes the imagination right there,
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win. On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and foodie debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
I'm kind of still floored by, the whole getting back to Emmanuel. I'm still floored by it, and
yes.
when
I mean, look at our chat when we were prepping for this. We had a few other people sharing some very awesome trivia, different alternate posters, and we still had a bunch of people just leave the group. They're like, "We're on a work computer." I'm like, "Oh, for God's sakes, come on!"
Jeez.
It's not that.
I don't want to get in trouble. Well, fuck
you don't want to get in trouble.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Is your spouse looking over your shoulder? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think the one thing that gets me is like, I've always been kind of like thinking to myself, all right, this kind of opened my mind to sex,
Yeah.
I think let's be honest here. We all were,
we
watching,
had ideas.
Going, getting ideas, and thinking about funny
stuff.
funny, that looks there funny. How it was for us growing up in that, we were the children of that generation that saw that. And when we got it on Cinemax or Showtime or whatever,
80s, 90s, and then early 2000s. And what's so crazy is The whole Skinemax thing, a lot of people said it dissolved in 2016, but I recall they officially stopped airing that shit by 2018.
Yeah, it was done by then. I think
It
what
was
happened
just they
was
only
that,
had a few left to air on, and HBO East would re-air it. They were the only one that carried over that some of that naughty shit.
and the thing that gets me the most is when you think about it too. DVDs were starting to replace that. They were phasing them out. I remember finding a movie called The Secret of Satin Blue, which was a European flick.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's just this pair of panties, there's this picture here of the traveling pants. This is the picture of the traveling panties. you know, I just kept thinking about it. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a piece of shit, you know, this is just, it's 1970s. And the thing that gets me is like, you see the women there, they have like nice breasts, and they're not too big, they're not too small, they're just right. But you see the guys, they look like, they still have the haircuts from the 60s, and they're kind of paunchy a little bit, and there's the one guy who looks good, but secretly, I think, he was just there as eye candy. It's like, it's like you're just sitting there like, one guy, the guy, they probably have like yellow teeth from smoking, and it's like, oh, they look so jet set. Bullshit. They all smell like freaking, garbage, probably.
Probably.
And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. It's like I've tried to wrap my mind around what was going on, and I think about the time that it was 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. It's that era of freedom that I think the world had.
I think so, dude, because like getting on to the earlier point, I mean, I see a lot of these HBO world premieres, like they, half the time, that was the marketing thing. It's like as seen on HBO. And so you would use that to shift that independent movie. A lot of them starred all kinds of actors, Lou Diamond Phillips, Martin Van Peebles, Martin Sheen, Kiefer. And I think what was really cool about them is half the time they would then premiere at a festival. Now you can't do that. Like festivals are very greedy. It's like you got to market your movie under alternate names. They got to be the first one to air it. It can't have been seen anywhere else. And I find that just kind of a lost. That was also kind of a fun, just kind of freedom thing where it's like, well, it's satellite. It's with, the FCC can't get involved in it. They still they still want an essence of quality to it, but there's going to be times where they get just flat out edgy. It's like, just do it because it's different. Let the dominoes fall where they do.
let the and I think the one thing that gets me too is like there was such word of mouth of it back then.
There really was.
There was word of mouth.
Oh, I saw the greatest thing last night. I don't remember the name of it, but it was wonderful acting, rich dialogue, and
it was a very
great tits.
Yes, and it was naughty as hell. I made sure the wife was out of town. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, the wife jerked me off 5 times during the movie. And the sad thing was the guy in front of us was going, "Who's hitting me in the back of the head?"
I still see people try and correct me even at just like stupid get-togethers where they've already said all the 7 dirty words and everything. I'm like, guys, it's 2024. What's going on here?
I'll just say it right now, cunt. All right, cunt.
Sarah Silverman can say it. Why can't I?
Penis, vagina.
Penis, vagina, butt sex. The thing I remember my mother getting upset that someone said the word cunt in a movie one time. I was watching this movie.
Seriously?
This English guy goes, "Yeah, she's a fucking cunt." Oh, what was it? No, I was listening to Derek and Clive. The Peter Cook Dudley Moore thing. That they did, and they said, she's a real fucking cunt, ain't she? And my mother went, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, Derek and Clive. She's like, who? I said, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. They went in the studio and they just cut this album of like really dirty humor. And my mother's like, "Did they say that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Mom, it's hilarious when you listen to it." And I would sit there and I'd sit there in my at my job, and this woman was being like really nasty one time. And I said, "Ah, fucking cunt," just like in that really like English accent. And that's the thing. Back then, you you had to be careful with what you say. But in these movies, no, you can say what you want. You can't say what you want, but um, and that's what gets me. Now it's like, I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out where, what, how, people today, they're very like, we'd appreciate
They
if you don't
lose
say that.
interest so fast too. Like I think it's worse than the 2000s. Like when I was growing up, I loved all eras. Like I loved all kinds of stuff, but I think that was where it set in. The stuff that was new was still not quite there yet, or kind of more based on the style it was trying to imitate, like Matrix type bullet time, or just have loud music that didn't really help the movie or show. But by the 2010s, it was just so intolerable for me. Just there was clickbait everywhere. There was, you still have it. It's like, oh, I can't stand this movie, or I love this movie. I need to go to a clickbait website that has 10 reasons why it's good or why it sucks. I'm like, well, you should be able to use your words by now instead of just being stuck up on whatever Rotten Tomatoes said. Especially when Rotten Tomatoes has had numerous scandals involving fake reviews.
But I mean, the thing that gets me the most is, the movie was well reviewed by a lot of people, and
Doesn't mean you'll like it.
It does, a lot of people were like walking out of that movie. I remember like people walking out of Personal Best, hearing about that, going, "It's about what?"
Yeah, Dudley Moore and Eddie Murphy.
No. Personal Best was about lesbians.
Oh, the Robert Towne movie, yes, with Scott Glenn and Mariel Hemingway. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good movie, but yeah,
that's a great movie to watch. But
talk about rumors and everything. Like you saw that even with some Oscar bait movies once in a while, where the shocking plot twist was kind of all it had going for it.
Death Trap was the biggest shock
the Michael
of all.
Winter film, yeah.
Where you find out. I was in the movie theater, and my father took me to go see it because I loved Christopher Reeve. I loved Superman.
Yeah.
My dad takes me to go see it. I'm there with my dad, my sister, and my brother-in-law, and that scene comes where they kiss each other, and they go, "Superman's gay," out loud.
I could have told you that. It's a Batman band. No, but I think the point is that society has gotten to the point where what was shocking and taboo and risque yesterday is going to be tomorrow's vanilla.
Yeah. When you've seen too much of it, and I see that too, where people will be like, "Cam, why did you hate this movie?" I'm like, well, because I've already seen like the last dozen psycho thrillers, financial gambling, mystery. It's like it's all variations of the same thing from like the last 4 decades. So I'm just like,
we're going from, oh my God, there are 2 lesbians on the screen, they're kissing too. Where are the midgets?
So what? But then to piggyback on that, I'm now even seeing people bash some other movies and they're like, oh, it's really not all that edgy by today's standards. I'm like, no, it kind of is, because it,
I remember there's a movie that came out 60 some odd years called The Children's Hour, about with Shirley MacLaine, and I forgot, and who else was in it, and the little girl accuses the 2 teachers of being lesbians.
Yeah.
And it's all a lie, and the one girl kills herself over it. And that was really shocking.
Well, and William Wyler, he has that stage play and aesthetic. It feels reserved, but also very real. And I think if you did that now, people would be wanting to overmarket it, cater to a kinky crowd, and it's like, no, it doesn't merit that. It's a very heartfelt but emotional, tragic drama. And the tragic drama, I think, is also hard to market. How much of it is just a good actor and you'll never see this fucking movie again, versus it is very well made, it's just a lot to take in.
Yeah, and it's like,
I love that episode of Extras where Kate Winslet's joking. Is like, you either got to play, a Holocaust victim or someone with AIDS, and you'll win an Oscar. And sure enough, she did one of the two and won an Oscar.
Well, the thing I always love is like, nobody talked about certain things. I mean, the 70s kind of like, blew things up. Like, you got to think too, the sexual revolution. You had The Boys in the Band, which is a great movie to watch.
Yep.
You had, as I said, Personal Best. You had, I'm trying to think what else was at that time. Making Love, which is about a gay relationship.
That's true.
And the thing was, cinema was opening up more of the doors to what was.
If you didn't like it, no one was forcing you to stay. And then it's like, once you get the 80s and the Reagan politics, and then studios refusing to let your movie be over 3 hours after the Heaven's Gate argument. It's just
there's the backlash of the one song, of the one movie, William Friedkin's Cruising.
Yeah.
Which I think almost killed Al Pacino's career.
Well, I remember it didn't help that they weren't getting along and they had different takes on what the premise was. So it is kind of.
And then not only that, the New York gay community, some sort of gay coalition or something like that, basically was,
that's a good predecessor to today's world, where now you see alt-right guys trolling movies
back then,
before it comes out, and
to show a leather bar, to show a guy, the scene with the water, with the handkerchiefs and shit like that.
Yeah, Friedkin's an old school conservative, but he meant well. Like, he wanted to just show an actual scene and show the audience why. I mean, he has several douchey, potentially crooked cops in that movie showing their bigoted views too.
And then they did another movie after that called Partners with Ryan O'Neal and John Hurt.
I was just thinking about that. I
think that one still comes on Showtime once in a while. It's definitely a crazy one.
It's a funny movie. It's a funny movie to watch. But the thing is that, you got to realize that was kind of like the answer to what cruising was, Yeah. It's kind of, and then you've got The Killing of Sister Georgie, which was a movie about a lesbian who gets murdered.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other one I keep thinking of? Shit. It was there, they put it out there. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, all of a sudden, like, you can think mainstream Hollywood, mainstream Hollywood just kind of like jumped on all this with Emmanuel. They kind of said, all right, what can we get here? What can we get? Who's got a good movie for me? Who's got a good idea? And I'm going to say this not in the derogatory. I'm going to say what it was back then. We got fags. Okay, let's do a movie about fags. That's what I think Hollywood was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
we got a movie. Yeah, just look at the recurring joke in the Police Academy movies with the Blue Oyster Bar.
Yeah.
True.
We got a movie about dykes. Let's do a movie about dykes. I think that's what it was. What was hot at the time. And I think that there was here's my script is about to. Well, it's I don't use the word fag and dyke, but I think that's how the mentality was in Hollywood back then.
You definitely had a lot of them just even saying that out loud. Like, even in the 90s, I remember several animators saying that they couldn't. I think the guy who created Chucky said he had to downplay some of his stuff because some execs were just uncomfortable. Just even the notion of there being a gay character making a joke is like, Jesus, how do you even make any of this work?
Well, there's a movie. Yeah. I'm sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
There's a movie called. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We do this a lot, back and forth. Who's on first?
Take three. Now, there's also there's also a gay character in Shaft that was
they downplay it so much, but it's like it's so obvious. You're like, yeah. That's why it's not just how he's talking; it's also just how he's looking at Shaft.
Yeah, just the whole body language thing, but the whole thing was that once Hollywood felt comfortable making that kind of joke, it then became the go-to. But then now we're dealing with repercussions of that because we've treated it so lightly and in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
and
now we're having to deal with some of the more complex elements of it. They're no longer punchlines.
Yeah.
Will and Grace be damned. But
right?
They're no longer punchlines. These are actual people, and they have their own agency, and that's, I think, a big part of that can go back to, like we said earlier, Emmanuel and the sexual revolution of the 70s.
Oh, well, and
there's a movie that came out in 1977, 78 called The Ritz. Which was a movie that Richard Lester did. It was a stage play about a guy who's being chased, and he hides in a gay bathhouse. It's a comedy.
Oh, wow, with Rita Moreno?
Rita Moreno. I think she got nominated for an Oscar. Wow. Gookie Gomez. Ha 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 ha! You think I'm one of them, huh? It's F. Murray Abraham's in it. Jerry Stiller, Kay Ballard, Jack Weston, Treat Williams, God bless him.
Oh, we have heard of this one. Shit, that's right.
Yes. Yeah. It's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Now, I didn't know what a bathhouse was. I'm 6 years old. I'm watching this movie because it's funny. Okay? My father tells me later, he says, you know that movie, The Ritz, you saw? I was like, yeah. He's like, you know what goes on in those places? I said, no, Dad. He's like, it's where gay guys go to pick up other gay guys. I'm like, okay, and your point? And he's like, no, I'm just telling you what happens there. I said, did you ever go to one? He's like, no. I just know what that is. It's a bathhouse. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Cross off somewhere I'm not going to stay, because if I'm him on the cheap, because, but that was the thing back then. It was the first time they showed a gay bathhouse, what it was like in there,
Well, and if they weren't going to be the first, someone else was going to bring, everyone out of their shells and just talk about it, and then ask you, why do you think we should not be talking about it? Why are you just denying everyone? It's also just kind of, I mean, going back to even just the very notion of just discussing, again, sexual content and offensive jokes, or brilliantly offensive if you want to go South Park MXC level, even just violence and just showing how people respond to drugs. It's just like everyone gets all freaked out about what they can or can't say, and it kind of just reminds me of just certain kinds of comedians where it's like, were you laughing with or against them? Not everyone seems to be in on the joke half the time.
And the one thing I will say about the entertainment industry as a whole is, as much as they like to think they're on the pulse of what America really wants and needs, they're usually at least a good decade or so behind the actual times. This reminds me of
because they're in development hell for years.
Yeah, but it also reminds me of something that happened in the 70s with Marvel Comics. They had a Spider-Man cartoon comic that dealt with drug use, but the Comics Code Authority would not allow it because it was one of those things that they did not allow.
Yeah.
So they took a chance. Marvel Comics took a chance and printed it without the Code Authority seal being on it.
Yep.
And it was, and then you go do another link with Green Lantern, Green Arrow, where he comes out as a junkie. Yeah, but the thing of it is that the entertainment industry, at least in comic books, didn't necessarily reflect the sensibilities of the modern day. So that's why I think we're dealing with a shift now towards treating gays, lesbians, etc., as actual human beings instead of just the punchline of a joke.
Right.
And
instead of
congratulations, you're now entering in something we were doing in the early 2000s. So
it took something like AIDS to swerve everybody's opinion about alternative. What
this can happen to any of you. It's not
this
just
can happen to any of you. But it was mainly the gay community that was getting hit. So I think that swerved everybody around a little bit and said, okay, we can't do that jokes
we can't
anymore.
Keep doing fear mongering.
I can remember a show called Brothers that was on Showtime, and Philip Charles McKenzie played Donald, who was a gay character on the show, and I'm talking gayer than Rip Taylor and no, great
Paul Lynde,
yeah, gayer than gay. but he was so loved by the audience and by who we because he'd come out and he would just he was I remember there was one episode he was helping the older brother who he didn't like they didn't
kind
like
of a foreshadow to Queer as Folk and the L Word.
Well, no, this was a comedy. Brothers was a comedy.
Wow.
It was part of that whole Showtime with like Hard Knocks.
I just mean their LGBTQ.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying it was like that's the first time you had a gay. I can remember a gay character coming on, going, not going like, oh, look at me. I was like, oh, hi there, everybody.
And it had to be on paid channels, so they didn't have to have any politics.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I just kind of barely remember, like Doc. Of course, there's Mr. Humphreys from Are You Being Served, but I don't remember that much in the way of lesbian characters being on TV. Except I'm trying to think who. I mean,
I think it was kind of just movies, and they, like you say, they would downplay it unless it was an independent film. So.
They downplay the lesbian. If it was lesbians, gays we're good with, but the lesbians we don't know that much about.
Yeah.
They're kind of foreign to us. Well, they're foreign to you because you're a man.
You're right.
I can remember but the whole thing was the world got wide open. I mean, granted, there was the X-rated, the hardcore X-rated community. And that was something, I'm kind of I've studied and watched and, read about, and I've been very I'm friends with a few people online who did that stuff. And I said, they said, it was just like any other, it was better to do that than do mainstream because at least you made more money doing that because you were busy all the time. And because you could see one person do 5 movies in 1 year.
You pretty much got to that where it's just like, I've
Yeah.
seen you before. I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
And the thing was that you got to think some of those actors and actresses did eventually break into mainstream. I think the one who there was Marilyn Chambers. There's Veronica Hart who was in Boogie Nights. She played the judge. No, hey, I'm not shitting you.
I know. I remember. It's just so funny. It's just that unless it's another one of the many jokes that goes over everyone's head.
And I think the story of whatchamacallit's character is based on her in real life because I think there was a custody battle between her and her husband over their son.
Oh,
and and that's supposedly what happened. But the thing that gets me the most is, you got to think, people who are, X-rated, triple X movies, people were going there in raincoats. People in Emmanuel were going there in blue jeans and T-shirts,
Yeah.
So you got to think it kind of like did this little transition over this little wake, this little Eddy movement that went over, and people were going, oh, it's a great movie to watch. It's artsy. It's it's. And then you had the Grindhouse one. There was the Grindhouse one where everybody's going, oh, there's a great story and action and adventure. It's not just fucking.
It's art.
And that's
My dad and I would always joke about that when we'd see a movie, R or PG-13 that had someone like Halle Berry or Charlize Theron. We're like, it's them. Therefore, it is art. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see a world where, we got exposed to this stuff through cable. We're not degenerates. Well, most of us.
Just report yourself now. Go ahead.
We're not degenerates. We didn't turn out bad. Granted, we did. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I'm not going to say it.
Set the VCR.
Yeah, set the VCR up and, pray to God Dad doesn't walk in on you.
I'm watching Johnny Bravo.
What are you watching? Like I said before, what are you watching? The weightlifting competition. Why are your pants down around your ankles? I had an itch on my ass.
Why are you wearing a sock?
got a boil on my ass, Dad. I don't know what the hell happened. But yeah, I can make a joke about that. I just joke around about that. But I remember one time I walked in, my dad was up.
Bruno, we're totally on trial here, being judged. I'm just kidding.
You want to know something funny? I come home from work one night. My dad is sitting there. Now my dad was in his 70s, right? He's sitting there. He's like, "Where's Mom?" I said, "She's up." Like, "Hey, what are you watching?" He says, "I'm watching this movie." I turn around. It's an adult movie. It was like one of those like European adult movies. And there's a lesbian scene going on. My father goes to me, straight faced, goes, "She looks like she's going yodeling in the canyon."
Wasn't he the same one who was very picky about what you watched?
Well, he wasn't picky. He wasn't picky. He was picky about what I watched. Life of Brian, and
if it was religion, but everything else.
Yeah, cool. Everything else.
You just can't make a mockery of what I believe in.
And I think he lightened up later, But my father would sit there and be like, "Yep, she's going yodeling in the canyon." I said, "Dad, it was like Burgess Meredith in Grumpy Old Men, That's what I swear to God, I think they based Burgess Meredith's character after my father, because my father would be like taking the skin boat to Tuna Town, hey Jay? I'm like, Dad,
My God,
and I was like, Jesus Christ, Dad, please, But I remember him watching it, and he's like, "You want to watch this?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm gonna go back in the bedroom, and then he turns to me, and says, I know it don't work no more, but I can always dream." And I went, okay, I really didn't want to hear that, but I'm laughing as he says it, And I wake up the next morning. He's like, "How was that movie?" I said, all right. He's like, "What do you mean, all right?" I said, just
It's stupid. What do you expect?
It's just a fucking porn. It's a softcore porno movie, Dad.
It's
and
okay.
my friend.
That's what I like when
Holden said to me. I said to him, I said, I watched this movie last night. I gave him the name of it. He's like, "That's softcore shit." I'm like, "What do you mean softcore?" He says, "Can't show penetration. You can hint at it, but you can't show it."
And that opened your eyes. Are like, "Oh wait, there's more." But it is funny how when I describe a movie and everyone wants my opinion on it, I'm kind of part of the crowd that goes Friday night movie or it's a Sunday 2 a.m. movie, and not everyone gets that. And I'm like, well, if you know, like it's a film you watch by yourself, or it's a good movie, but watch on a day where you got nothing going on, so you're not looking at your watch, waiting for it to end. And some people just don't value their time. They just want no distractions. And I think we're even to the point now where we're having to even remind people about etiquette when watching a movie or something. And like, hey, you can boo a movie, you can laugh at it if it's awful, but don't talk on your fucking cell phone during the whole thing. If it's really not good, like, or if you're reacting to something on screen, like if someone like does an awesome takedown, I'm gonna shout badass, but don't just be blabbing or feeding someone trivia during the movie where you're like, dude, come on.
Let me tell you something funny. I was watching one night. I watched the X-rated version of Cinderella.
Yeah. So
did you ever see that movie?
Jim? Yep.
Okay. Michael Pataki, who you may remember as the bad guy in Rocky IV.
Yeah, the evil general. Yep.
He was the evil general guy. He was also.
I promise we'll do a special on him soon.
He was also in Star Trek. He was JC in the Side Hackers.
Yep.
Yes.
He was a director too,
Man
right?
of a Million Faces. Yep.
So he gets the rights to do a pornographic version of Cinderella, and Cheryl Rainbow Smith is in it. She was the girlfriend in Laser Blast, right? So this is a lot of So I'm watching it and I'm laughing. Cy Richardson's in it. He was the boss in the movie with Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen.
Dirty Work. No,
Dirty Work. He was the boss in Dirty Work. He plays the fairy godfather.
Oh, with Norm Macdonald. Okay, shoot.
No. It was a different one.
No, the Men at Work.
Men at Work. Yes, there you go.
Okay. So he plays the boss. He plays the boss in that, but he was also the fairy godfather in Cinderella, right? And he plays him kind of like a feminine black guy, right? So I'm watching this,
As
and
you
I'm
do.
like, okay, yeah, I'm like watching this. I'm like, okay, this is wrong on so many levels. And then I find out later there's a pornographic version of Alice in Wonderland and a pornographic version of Snow White. And I'm thinking, God, if they made a pornographic version of the pit, Sleeping Beauty, it'd be 20 minutes long. So who climbs in? Who climbs? Okay, so anyway,
and how do you fuck while you're asleep?
I'm watching this. I'm watching it. It's on Showtime. I completely wipe it from my memory, right? Just as well. Fast forward about 30 years later, I'm at a film festival, the Exhumed Fest, right, in Philadelphia, PA.
Cool.
It's me, my friend Humphrey, my wife, my friend Sean, his wife. We're sitting in the balcony. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to see the first X-rated musical, Michael Pataki's Cinderella. I yell out, "Holy shit, I saw this movie when we were in high school." The whole place looks up at me. And I go, "No, I saw it. I really saw it. And I can tell you who's in it." And he's like, they're like, my friend Humphrey's going, my friend Humphrey is laughing, and my wife's looking at me and she's laughing, And Sean and his wife are just looking at me going like, "Bruno, man, you had to yell it out loud, I'm laughing.
We're
I'm like,
with you.
I'm looking, I'm like, "That's Rainbow Smith. That's Cheryl Rainbow Smith." And they're like, "Who?" And like, "Cheryl Rainbow Smith."
More like libido.
She was in Laser Blast. She played Billy's girlfriend. She's the one that's my friend Humphrey's going, "Oh fuck, yeah, I remember, yeah. And I'm like, I remember this movie. I remember it very well. They kind of cut out a lot of the dirty stuff in the preview. Okay.
Jeez.
Which they did, so basically the preview's about 10 minutes long. And basically the plot of the movie is, instead of a glass slipper, she's given a great snapper.
No pun intended.
Yeah. So what the prince has to do, right?
Oh, hubba.
And just a great fucking movie. They're sitting at the writing room going, "Okay, we won't give her a glass slipper. We'll give her a really tight vagina. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that'll be good." And it wasn't pornographic at all. It was just soft core, but they gave it an X.
Just like some of these manuals.
And then later we watch a movie where a woman, basically her sister is raped, and what she does is she finds the guys who raped them. She makes this little community of people. She finds the guys who raped them, and then she drugs them and cuts their balls off.
Oh yes.
Talk about
I know the name of the movie too, because I watched it and I was like, "Holy fuck, this is a good fucking movie," because it was like we were watching High Risk before that with James Brolin and Cleavon Little and Bruce Davidson and James Coburn and Ernest Borgnine. And here's a quick imitation. Ernest Borgnine in every movie he's ever done. "What the hell are you doing?" Okay. So we saw it. I saw this, and I was like, the whole night I'm sitting. I'm like, I can't believe I yelled that out in the theater. I couldn't really fucking yell that out. And then we're watching Kill or Be Killed, and I started doing Old Groucho. And I started going. I worked with Von Rudolph when we were doing at the circus. I was Duck Soup in 1933. And of course, he had a karate team, which never appeared in the movie. But he was financing the movie. And back in those days, you had a karate team in order to fight another karate team. And you didn't use weapons, you used your hands. And some guys would slap each other. These were known as slap happies, and I had Humphrey cracking up the whole time, doing Old Groucho. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you watch that X-rated version of Cinderella. Okay, put it on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. But these are also just kind of good lessons on back when filmmakers could find alternate ways to distribute stuff. Now you're kind of back to, you got to just be subscribed to like a streaming network. And I feel like everyone's forgetting how I'm just tired of all the physical media versus streaming wars too. It's like you can watch it however you want to watch it, but not everything's going to get remastered the way you want it. And once again, some people are just becoming stuck up now where they don't want to be seen watching violent or sexual cinema together. And like, oh, okay, whatever. It harms nobody. It's just a movie.
It's only a movie.
It's
only a movie. Yeah.
It's only a movie.
It doesn't
You know, and
have to be by Disney or Marvel for you to want to see it in the theater. It doesn't have to be an A24 disturbing horror film either. It can be whatever, man. It's
you know,
Yeah.
I just think back then it was such an innocent time. You know, like you if you were an adult, you didn't want to admit you saw it, but you did see it. You know,
I think even before social media, I think somewhere in the 2000s, people wanted to get all confrontational again. It's like, well, it used to be if you didn't like that neighbor, you just didn't go and visit him. You let him judge you until he died on his biased household.
You really didn't give a shit about him, did you? No, I didn't. Okay, all right, you know.
Moving on. Instead of, oh my God, can you believe what he or she said about me on, at school or on social media? It's like,
there's a story I got to tell you guys. My mother and my father one time. This is I think before I was born. My mother and my father went to go see an adult movie. Right.
Perfect.
And of course, my father, my mother and my father, they don't want to be. They don't know who's in the movie theater. They don't want to see recognized, right? So they're sitting down there. My mother gets up, and my father goes, "Where are you going?" And she goes, "I just want to go find something to suck on."
Wow.
My mother, my father just cracked up. He's like, but I think the thing was back then. I just think it's like funny how, you just sit there and you're trying to figure out how the hell, movies were made back then, how a movie gets distributed, how this kind of comes out of nowhere. I remember the Happy Hooker coming out and everybody getting like freaked out about it.
Really?
There's nothing to get freaked out about. The original Happy Hooker was Vanessa Redgrave. And then you had the Happy Hooker Goes to Hollywood. No, the Happy Hooker Goes to Washington, was with Joey Heatherton, which is a great comedy because it has one of the best lines in it. With she says, "Well, he called him a cocksucker," and Sissy Cameron, who was it? The guy who played the father on is Sissy Cameron goes, "Is that cocksucker one word or two?" And what you call it? The guy who played the father on Laverne and Shirley goes, "I think that's one word, but you can't put a hyphen in between it." It's just a fun. The Happy Hooker Goes to Washington is funny, and then the Happy Hooker Goes to Hollywood is just Martine Bestwick is in it, and I remember, and it was Adam West and Chris Lemmon, and they had Phil Silvers in it. I remember.
Chris Lemmon has been wild how he was in all these drive-in slasher type movies, even Wishmaster, and then like after a while he kind of just gave it up to just do biographies, books about his dad, Jack.
Well, you remember
Sissy Cameron. There's the doctor lady from Space Mutiny and Porky's too. So
happily married to
Reb Brown,
for, I think Reb Brown 40 some odd years, and I'm friends with Reb, and I wish them I always wish them a happy anniversary.
Nice.
Because they're very cool people, and you got to realize Sissy Cameron was kind of like the it girl in the 70s because she was like in like every TV show you could think of.
Totally.
Well, yeah, she was a good looking, and she still is a good looking woman. And Reb was doing that movie with Dirk Benedict and Strother Martin, and then he did Captain America. He did Uncommon Valor. So I mean, and he worked. I remember I messaged him. I said, "Hey, I just watched The Love Boat. I didn't. You work. You didn't. I know you did. I didn't realize you worked with Gloria Swanson." He's like, "Yep, she was a great lady to work with." And I'm like, I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I mean, Reb has. I mean, about that. Reb loves the fact that Captain America and Space Mutiny kind of brought him back into the
that's cool,
the swing of things.
Yeah.
But I yet again, we got to think. Let's just Emmanuel brought out the awakening of America, middle class America sexually, and Black Emmanuel was the grindhouse. Let's put TNA. Let's put TNA on the screen and let's have a good story and let's not make it like this. It's going to be totally different from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened.
Totally.
Uh,
Well, this has been very awesome, all, and we'll help you start up your retro show soon, James.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to get the microphone and everything going, and then I think I'm gonna try to get people on that I know and people who've been in certain industries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get Erin Lily Taylor and her husband on for Demon Squad, because I'm gonna say this right now. Demon Squad was one of these movies I saw where I was impressed with the production. I was impressed with the story, with how it was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Super low budget, but very good to watch. I think that has become the favorite of the past season for Mystery Science Theater. I hope to God they do. I hope to God they do a sequel on it.
I can get in contact with them, and both her and her husband would love to probably chat with you. Probably,
because I mean, I gotta say this.
Do it yourself mentality. Do it.
Yeah, it was a DIY mentality. It kind of reminded me of what Corman did with his movies. What
didn't lose a dollar.
Robert Rodriguez
you set the budget.
Did. Yeah, what Robert Rodriguez did. There's no formulate. There's no form. It's just, we're gonna put this scene here. We're gonna shoot it, and then we're gonna go on, shoot it, and go on, shoot it, and go on. And that's the one thing I loved about it. The story was good. The casting was good. The special effects, even for the budget, were really good. Kind of reminded me of what Supernatural was when it first started.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you want to even go to a Phantasm kind of way, is this blue collar?
Yeah, kind of like Phantasm.
Yeah.
And I just found out the guy who directed Phantasm did two really good movies before that.
Mm-hmm.
There was one where Gregory Harris was in it, where he played a guy, or was it Mark Singer, who plays a guy who protects his little brother. And then he did a kids movie called Kenny and Company.
Yep.
Which nobody's ever. I said the guy who directed Phantasm did this.
I still need to see it, but yeah, I mean, he did the
Kenny
Beastmaster.
Yeah, Kenny and Company is a great movie to watch. It's just it's a kids movie, and I could be like, I could tell you about. The funny thing is, the guy who plays the father is the one guy who plays the guy who goes snooping around the mortuary, and then he had Agnes Scrim in the other movie play the alcoholic father, I think, of Mark Singer's father. Mark Singer's character.
Rest in peace.
And I just watched Munchie on Mystery Science
Roger
Theater.
Corman.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
No, Munchie, the sequel. Munchie was the sequel.
That's right.
With
One of
Dom
them.
DeLuise playing.
Oh, it's under Andrew Stevens or Corman, but yeah.
Yeah. They have a scene where the kid's fantasizing about his funeral. Agnes Scrim comes out as a cameo, and I busted out laughing. Because he's like, yes, this boy is dead. And he just putters off. And I remember talking to my friend Michael, like, dude, that's the tall man from Phantasm. I think he was spoofing himself. He also did another movie where he spoofed himself, with Terry Copley. And he does his, "Are you ready, boy?" And all of a sudden, it's like he's got the ball, and he opens it, the blade comes out, and they start playing baseball. I forgot.
Wow.
I forgot the movie, but it was like I was just laughing. I love to laugh at that shit. When someone can spoof themselves.
We need more of that. I feel like so many people, they don't know when to release all the tension on set, and once people hear that someone's not getting along on a movie, like, the movie's already kind of dead now. It's even worse than when you saw a spectacle like Waterworld where rumors flew and it was already dead. But now if people catch you on video just mouthing off or being a jerk, it's just, people have less patience now. But I do think Don Coscarelli is going to keep doing stuff. He's already done with his Phantasm franchise. I think he keeps teasing another Bubba Hotep, and well, I will check out Kenny and Company, but I think everyone else will definitely like Survival Quest and his Masters of Horror episode.
There's a movie that George Romero did that I want to see called There's Always Vanilla.
Oh, you will love that one. And he's not necessarily proud of it, but it was kind of a cool movie because, like, for a company that was again producing adult features, like he was able to just make a cool coming of age, post Vietnam hippie vibe kind of movie.
And coming after Night of the Living Dead.
Well, and this one
that's
and
a portrait
Season of
of
the Witch,
itself.
which is also a very good one, where it's kind of about all these guys kind of being racially segregated in kind of an elite neighborhood. But you can get those on an Anchor Bay DVD as a double feature. You flip the disc, and it's awesome because it comes with his stars, the director's episode, and he explores how these movies were, again, his way of avoiding, making a living in between Night of the Living Dead and avoiding doing just off-kilter cinema he didn't want to do, like porn and TV shows.
I think the one thing that gets me the most is, you've got some guys do movies that are like John Carpenter's, John Carpenter, he goes, Halloween, Prince of Darkness, nobody looks at Starman, nobody looks at Dark Star, nobody looks at, Assault on Precinct 13, which is one of the best movies of the 70s.
Definitely a good one.
Nobody looks at Starman, nobody looks at Elvis. Everybody looks at him thinking he's a hard guy. He did Starman, I think, basically taking over for the original director.
I think so.
And for him to do a movie like that when it said directed by John Carpenter, I can remember people going, "Holy fuck, he did this!" I remember myself watching, going like, "Wow, John Carpenter,"
Right? Who would have thought?
It's like that. It's like that thing where directors will do certain movies and they're not accustomed to it, but they bring their own little touch.
Workmen and then slowly finding their voice. And then there's others where it's like you can tell they don't want to be here, but they got to do this just so they can make a buck.
Have you guys ever seen Dark Star, the first one that he ever did?
I believe so, and I'm due for a rewatch when we cover it. Finally.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on Tubi.
Yeah, I watched it, and I was hysterical laughing because all I can remember is watching the one scene with the guy chasing the fucking alien around the little beach ball alien. And just laughing hysterically, and then the part where he's like, well, I'm not really Pinback, I'm so and so, and like you're like thinking to yourself, so what the fuck happened to Pinback? You find out Pinback killed himself. And then he just happened to put the uniform on and went up to the
perfect example of how to take your student film and then make it ready for a movie theater by adding extra scenes.
And Dan O'Bannon with that script of his, where he's like going, I think I'm gonna make another movie out of this, and they're like, oh, what's it called? Oh, it's called Alien.
Just simply Alien.
What's it about? Oh, I don't know. I'm just writing it, and it'd be good to. It's gonna scare the crap out of you.
A hell of a drug.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm gonna start looking into shit, just like try to figure out how this movie connects with this movie, like Assault on Precinct 13, I think is one of the best movies, but there's a movie called Self-Defense from Canada that's almost the same thing, where it's I don't want to say a white supremacist, but it's
the Siege, 1983. Yep.
Yeah, the Siege. It's called Siege, Self-Defense. I saw it at a movie festival. I loved it. The two guys I kind of recognized were the fat guy and the nerdy guy from Meatballs. Spaz and Larry. I remember them.
Good old Canada, baby.
Yeah. And the movie is a bunch of guys are chasing down a gay guy. They massacred they performed a massacre in a gay bar, and there's a witness. And the
all
witness
this stuff that makes you realize audience thought, this is just a movie. I'm like, no. There are hate crimes like this.
Yeah.
Just no one's covering them.
And it was based on what Nova Scotia Police Department going on strike. So there was an actual strike. So what happens is that they're chasing this guy. He winds up in this tenement. The people take him in, and it's these 5 guys, who have weapons and shit, and they try to take down the people inside.
Yep.
And the people inside basically are just like, okay, we got this. What are we gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good. I've watched it so many times. There's a part of it in the beginning they cut, which showed you, how the one guy's a total dick to his wife, and the other guy's just walking around with his newspaper in his hand, going like. But it's a good movie to watch. I gotta talk about. I want to talk about that movie.
We can probably find some similar.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of even doing some. Oh well, hell, I'm even thinking of doing some subgenres, like where we take movies and then we recommend movies or shows that are very similar.
I'm thinking about doing that when I get the podcast. I'm thinking about talking about Siege.
Perfect.
When it comes out, and I want you guys to be on it with me. So
promise.
Absolutely.
Can totally review it in advance. Yep.
Maybe bring my friend Humphrey on if he wants to come on.
Sure.
If he feels like it.
Find some other indie filmmakers who also might want to talk about it. Just the feeling is mutual.
All right, guys.
Good chat. We got we had about 5 chats in one. So nice.
That's right.
Jesus.
Oh, it's awesome. I can split it up. Alrighty. Thank you all, and you stay safe out there. I'm gonna try avoiding the ice storm and get my resistant bands built so I can exercise inside.
Get your get nice and big and strong so you can play Hercules.
I just want to be able to sleep.
I just want to fall asleep.
I just want to fucking sleep. I don't want to die, but I just want to get knocked the fuck out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up